Legends, welcome along to Here's Rodder's Reviews. I'm your host, Rodney Stewart, and in this episode, we're getting into He-Man and the Masters of the Universe once more. We're into Disc 7 in the box set with an episode called It's Not My Fault. Now, on the box here, it says Orko and his friend Pody are captured by the evil Rago, who plans to use the Morfire stones to overthrow Eternia. With them, Rago will build Zegon, a mighty rhino-like robot that can crush everything in its path, including He-Man. Right, this episode is a great little episode. Not just for kids, but for adults alike, because, it's a story about not taking responsibility for your actions and screwing stuff up, and that happens more and more than you would know, and it's a good lesson for the kids to learn, but it's also a good lesson for the adults out there to learn as well, because I've been in situations lately where people have screwed up insanely badly and they've run away from their responsibilities, said nothing, hoped it would go away. And basically the moral of the story in this episode is, take responsibility for your actions, own up to the stuff you mess up, and that's the only way to really start rebuilding any bridges that you may have burned. And the longer you leave it, the worse it's going to get. And I have seen more friendships than enough been destroyed over the years because someone somewhere just decided that screw it, I am just going to do what I want when I want and not take any responsibility for anything. But that's personal to me. The episode itself, absolutely fantastic. It's the two kids essentially, Orko, who is the entryway for the kids to watch the episodes. They're playing ball at the beginning of the episode. Ham and Pody, they're throwing it backwards and forwards, and the competition gets a little bit higher, and Pody falls over during one of the shots that Orko sends to her, and she throws the ball really hard and it goes through a window, destroys one of Man-at-Arm's inventions. So instead of taking responsibility for her actions, she runs away to hide in like a vine jungle in this cave where her and Orko hide out from time to time. Their secret little hiding spot that everybody knows about. So Man-at-Arms isn't happy at all, and Prince Adam comes in during it, and it's obvious to them Pody's involved as well, so they send Orko off to get her, to bring her back. Her father is the head of the Phantos tribe, and he would like nothing better than for his kid to take responsibility for her actions. So off Orko goes, too late to actually save her from a villain called Rago, who is also a member of the same tribe that she is a part of. But it comes out during the episode, he wants to overthrow her father, Chief Merlo, because Chief Merlo put Rago in charge of looking after the water system of the tribe, and he didn't like this. He thought he was, capable of so much more, and that it was just a job that was beneath him. So he ran away from what he was supposed to be doing. He became a thief. He ended up in prison. He's escaped in this episode, and Chief Merlo tries to send word to the palace to keep Pody safe because this guy is out running amok. But he's captured her at this point, and he's after these stones called the Morfire stones, which are like two jewels that are the eyes of a totem that the tribe worships. And the only person that also, the power of these stones also powers the staff that the king has. His magic comes from these stones, and if they get removed, whoever basically has them has the power. And the only way that the stones can be removed is if a child removes them, and not just any child, but a very special child, the child of the chief of the tribe, which is Pody, which Rago has in his custody along with Orko at this point. So they have built this thing called Zegon, which is like a rhino sort of a creature, and it's got like these 3 legs and like tracks on the bottom, like army battle tank tracks, and they're ploughing through the forest to get to this sacred chamber where these stones are at. And of course the heroes, they're all in the mix in this one, and they're all trying to chase these boys down. There is Rago and his co-conspirator Xantor that are trying to get these stones, which they eventually do, using Pody. They put the stones in like the eye sockets of this beast that they've made Zegon, and of course He-Man comes head to head with that confrontation, and they use the power of the stones to fire to try and kill He-Man. But with the power sword, he's able to block the shots and send them back towards him, and he pretty much just uses every shot they fire. He bounces them off the sword of power, destroying the 3 legs of the thing, and disables the craft. And he physically lifts the thing in his hands and starts shaking it, and people start falling out of it. The co-conspirators of Rago, and one runs one way, and Man-at-Arms chases him down. There's a fight sequence between him and this co-conspirator, and hand-to-hand combat. Like it's a fairly physical fight for this show. And at one point the guy pulls a lightsaber on Man-at-Arms, and I was just like, oh, George Lucas is going to sue somebody. That joke would have been much better if George Lucas still owned Disney. But I was recently watching Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and that's a line from that movie where there's a character pulls a lightsaber, not an actual lightsaber, but something that's very close to a lightsaber. Don't want to say what it is in case YouTube hammers me for it, but the guy in the movie is like, oh, George Lucas going to sue somebody. But the guy pulls this lightsaber, he doesn't even get a hit on with it. Man-at-Arms easily takes him down and imprisons him in one of those porta prisons, where he pulls this little thing out of his pocket and puts it over the top of the guy's head, and these bars come out of it and traps him to the ground. It's not a new thing in the series. I've seen it, I think, once, maybe twice before. And meanwhile, Tila is chasing down the other guy. Everybody gets captured at the end. The stones get returned, and the kids have to now own up to what happened at the beginning of the episode. It kind of mirrors the story of Rago and his history with the Chief Merlo. What happens with Pody and Argo, and what happens running away from the responsibilities. The character of Rago is exactly the same. He had grown up responsibilities to look after, and he ran away from that as well. So it's not just a matter of the kids in this episode, it's the grown-ups as well. There's 2 stories happening at the one time. Both are different examples of a similar situation. So at the end of the episode, the kids own up to their mistakes, they're saved, these guys are sent back to prison, and we all live happily ever after. At the end of the episode, there's another crash while the heroes are having their little hero moment at the end of the episode. I think the kids will have learned from their mistakes, and we can move forward and we can all be happy. And you hear a crash in the background, and Argo and Pody have destroyed something else, and they come out, and it's like each one's trying to take responsibility for it. Now Pody's like, it was my fault, I did it. And Argo's like, no, it was my fault, I did it. And Pody's like, what do you mean it was, of course it was your fault, sort of thing. And tries to momentarily shift the blame over to Argo, and then they decide that it wasn't my fault or your fault, it was our fault, and we have our little laugh, and the episode closes out. And the moral of the story is fairly simple, and I literally said it at the beginning of the episode. It's like, if you screw up, you need to own up to your mistakes and not run away from them. It is just an example I have seen more times than I care to think about my own personal life at the moment. It's just, if you do something, you screw up, that's fine. If you talk to someone, tell them what you've done. Right now I'm in a personal situation where a friend screwed up in a big bad way with me and didn't tell me about it, and we literally spoke quite a few times face to face, and he never let on or told me that anything had happened or whatever. I'm not going to go into the details of the thing, but it's essentially at this point that friendship is in tatters, because it was the better part of a year I was aware of the thing, and just something pushed me one night to I dropped the hammer and he came out with it then. But it was easily a 2-year stretch from the incident till he found out that I knew about it, and then there was a whole load of trying to backtrack and everything and apologise. At this stage, I think the friendship's just gone. So these episodes, even though like I'm 42 years old, and as I say, at this age now, this is the power in the stories of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is as strong now as it was back in the 80s, whenever I was a kid watching this. And it's, I think more people should really check out these older shows. I don't know how to end this episode off. I wasn't expecting to talk about my own personal life in it, but it is what it is. It's a great story, and one that was a heck of a lot better than I was expecting from the title of it. But really did enjoy this one, and I'm looking forward to doing as many of these over this incoming week as I can, because last week I was on an earlier shift at work and I was just thrown right off. My sleeping patterns and everything were gone, and just didn't get a chance to sit down, record, watch anything, just nothing. Up in the morning, into work at 5 a.m, home out cold. So that's going to do it, guys. I'll talk to you in the next episode. Guys, thank you so much for checking out the video. Please consider subscribing to the channel, and if you do, don't forget to turn on that bell icon to be notified of future uploads. And please check out some of the other videos on this channel while you're here.